Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to the channel. This Saturday is UFC 287, Alex Pereira versus Israel Adesanya 2, and I am so excited for this fight card. It is just stacked from top to bottom with incredible fights, and on the pay-per-view main card, we have Santiago Ponzinibbio versus Kevin Holland, and this is going to be my full breakdown and prediction for this welterweight matchup, and this is a fight that I'm very excited for, but it's not super relevant to the welterweight division because neither one of these guys is considered a contender. Neither one of these guys is going to be challenging for a welterweight title anytime soon. And realistically, what this fight is, it's just a super fan-friendly matchup to put on UFC 287 because Santiago Ponzinibbio, never in a boring fight. Kevin Holland, never in a boring fight. I think no matter who wins this fight, it will be an exciting matchup. And also, it does have decent stakes on the line as well because Kevin Holland, he had mixed success at middleweight. And he came down to welterweight and he hoped to have a career resurgence. Well, now he finds himself on a 2-fight losing streak. So this is a must-win for him against Santiago Ponzinibbio, or his career at welterweight is essentially dead. And then for Ponzinibbio, he's getting up there in age. He's 36 years old. How long is he going to be able to stick around and be able to be super competitive with some of these highly skilled guys at welterweight? And I know this isn't the elite of the elite. Kevin Holland isn't the elite of the elite. Neither is Ponzinibbio anymore. But they're still very good fighters. And, they're basically fighting to determine who's going to be the gatekeeper of the top 15. That's essentially what this fight is. And it's just kind of sad to see because at one point, Ponzinibbio was razor close to getting a title fight. And he had a slew of injuries and he was out for a while, sitting on the shelf. And now he finds himself outside of the top 15 because the top 15 of the division is so stacked and has incredible talent. Guys like Shavkat Rakhmonov making their way up the ladder. And I just think this is one of those fights that's kind of meaningless to the division, but I think stylistically, it's going to be a very fun fight to watch. So if you look at the tail of the tape for this fight, you have Ponzinibbio, who's 29-6. Kevin Holland is 23-9. Neither guy is ranked. Ponzinibbio is 36 years old. Holland is 30 years old. Ponzinibbio is 6 foot. Holland is 6'3". Ponzinibbio has a 73-inch reach, and Holland has an 81-inch reach. So a 3-inch height advantage and an 8-inch reach advantage for Kevin Holland, which is a massive reach advantage. So if you look at Kevin Holland, of his 23 wins, 13 by knockout, 6 by submission, 4 by decision. Of his 9 losses, 1 by knockout, 3 by submission, 5 by decision. And he's been in the UFC for a long time. He made his UFC debut back in August of 2018, which I know doesn't sound like that far away, but this was 5 years ago. He's been in the UFC for 5 years. I was actually shocked when I saw that. He came off of Dana White's Contender Series, and he was first fighting at middleweight. And he had mixed success at middleweight, and he had that brutal KO of Jacare Souza back in 2020, where Jacare was on top of him, holding him down. He landed shots off his back and essentially brutally KO'd Jacare Souza off his back. But then after that, he fought Derek Brunson. And he got out-wrestled and he got exposed by Derek Brunson. Then he stepped in on short notice a couple weeks later and fought Marvin Vettori. And of course, he got out-grappled in that fight as well, lost that fight. And then he had a fight with Kyle Dawkins. There was a headbutt. It ended up being a no contest because Kevin Holland kind of got knocked out and then got finished afterwards. I can't remember if it was a submission afterwards or he got TKO'd. But the referee said basically the finish happened because of the headbutt. So therefore, it ended up being a no contest. Well, then he moved down to welterweight. And he's 2-2 at welterweight. He has a win over Alex Cowboy Oliveira back at UFC 272 March of last year, where he TKO'd him in the second round. He has a win over Tim Means via submission. He got a Bravo choke. This is back in June of last year. And then at UFC 279, I feel really bad for Kevin Holland. He was supposed to fight Daniel Rodriguez on a catchweight. The reason it was a catchweight is because the UFC decided to throw UFC 279 together last minute. Well, unfortunately for Kevin Holland, Khamzat Chimaev didn't make weight to fight Nate Diaz. So Nate Diaz said, I'm not fighting Khamzat Chimaev. So they had to reshuffle the entire card around. And guess what? Because Khamzat was missing weight and because Kevin Holland had weighed in at a catchweight of, I think it was 180 pounds, it made perfect sense. So they booked Kevin Holland, who already took the Daniel Rodriguez fight on short notice, against Khamzat Chimaev on short notice. And he got absolutely mauled and submitted via Darce choke in the first round. He had some decent scrambles, but Khamzat Chimaev is just relentless and finds the submission in that first round. And really, Kevin Holland had no chance in that fight. And then after that, the UFC kind of rewards him. They give him a highly ranked guy in Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, who's a striker. And a lot of people were picking Kevin Holland going in this fight. People were saying, well, Wonderboy, he doesn't want to fight anyone who wrestles, and he's getting up there in age, and he's been losing fights, and Kevin Holland's coming down from middleweight and has a lot of power. Well, unfortunately for Kevin Holland, Wonderboy is still a world-class striker. Went out there, beat up Kevin Holland for 4 rounds. Eventually, I think it was at the end of the 4th round, Kevin Holland talked to his corner. He had a broken hand, and he decided, basically not to fight the rest of the fight. So it ended up being a TKO via corner stoppage. But Wonderboy was just beating him up the entire fight. Now, don't get me wrong. Kevin Holland had some moments, but it was basically a one-sided beating for Wonderboy Thompson. And that's his last fight. That was back in December of 2022. Now, if you look at Santiago Ponzinibbio, 29 wins. Of those 29 wins, 16 by knockout, 6 by submission, 7 by decision. Of those 6 losses, 3 by knockout, 3 by decision. His last fight was against Alex Morono, and this was a short notice fight. And Alex Morono, I think, stepped in on 2 weeks' notice and ended up being a catchweight fight of 180 pounds. And this was at UFC 282, December of last year. And Alex Morono won the first 2 rounds. And Alex Morono almost finished Santiago Ponzinibbio in the first round. That's a little bit of an exaggeration, but he hurt him badly. And then the second round, Alex Morono won. He didn't get close to a finish, but he landed some good shots without striking him. And then early in the 3rd round, Alex Morono hurt Ponzinibbio bad, was swarming him, almost finished him, and somehow Ponzinibbio survives. And then towards the midway point of the 3rd round, Santiago Ponzinibbio lands a nasty right hand, and basically Morono's out on his feet. He swarms him. He lands a follow-up shot. Morono falls. He lands like 1 shot on the ground, and it's over. He gets a come from behind TKO. But what does this really mean? Because Morono was winning the first 2.5 rounds, and he came in on short notice, or two rounds and then the first minute of the 3rd round. And he came in on relatively short notice and fought up a weight class, essentially. Now, the fight before this, and this is where context really matters, he lost to Michel Pereira via decision. This is in May of 2022. I thought this was a close fight. I thought it could have went either way. I think I scored it for Ponzinibbio, but it was a very close fight. It was primarily striking. Neither guy was really looking to grapple. The fight before that, he has a split decision loss to Jeff Neal. This is back in December of 2021. This was a close fight as well. I thought Ponzinibbio could have stole this fight as well, but unfortunately, Jeff Neal gets a split decision win. That's not a bad loss to have. Look how good Jeff Neal has looked since then. Look how good he even looked in the Shavkat Rakhmonov fight, even when he lost. The fight before that, he beats Miguel Baeza. And then the fight before that, he fought Li Jingliang after being out for almost 3 years. He comes back, he fights Li Jingliang, and gets brutally KO'd in the first round. I think it was a left hook. I can't remember exactly. And that was his return fight. And the story of Ponzinibbio's career is really, he was looking so good, and he was a top contender and even a title contender at one point in time. But then it's just like injuries started to happen, and he had to sit out for a while and was having all these different issues. And then he comes back and gets slept by Li Jingliang. But since then, he's done all right. He got the win over Miguel Baeza, and he got the win over Alex Morono. But what do those wins really mean? Those are his 2 most recent wins. The only 2 wins he has since the end of 2018 are Miguel Baeza and Alex Morono, and Morono was winning the majority of that fight. Now, I do think you can add the context of the Pereira fight and the Jeff Neal fight were very close, but still he lost those fights. And I think Ponzinibbio is a guy who's on the decline. I think he's getting up there in age. And then you have Kevin Holland, who's 30 years old. He's 6 years younger. He has an 8-inch reach advantage. He has a 3-inch height advantage. I just think that's a recipe for disaster because Ponzinibbio gets hit with big shots all the time. Kevin Holland's long, rangy, and has good power. And he's coming down from middleweight. He used to fight at middleweight and be able to be competitive and knock guys out at middleweight. And I think that power is going to follow him down to welterweight. He's already shown it. He's had success before with his striking at welterweight. He hurt Tim Means and eventually got the finish. And I just think in this fight, you have a Ponzinibbio who's taken a lot of damage over the course of his career. The Pereira fight, he wore a lot of damage. The Alex Morono fight, he wore a lot of damage. And that wasn't really that long ago. It was only 4 months ago. And I look at Kevin Holland, I look at that reach advantage. I look at the fact that I don't think Ponzinibbio is going to be wrestling. I don't think he's going to be looking for a takedown. So for my official prediction, I am going Kevin Holland first round KO. I just think Ponzinibbio is taking entirely too much damage. I think he's the slower fighter here. I think he even had trouble managing the distance against Alex Morono. And now he's got a guy in Kevin Holland who has an 8-inch reach advantage on him. And I just think Ponzinibbio is super hittable. You know, he has good leg kicks. Will he use those leg kicks on Kevin Holland? Probably. But I just think the length of Kevin Holland, the speed of Kevin Holland, the power of Kevin Holland, coupled with the fact that Ponzinibbio is on the decline, he's taken a lot of damage in his last few fights. I just think this is an absolute recipe for disaster. And I think Kevin Holland is going to go out there, pump the jab, throw a straight right, and eventually just rock Ponzinibbio and then finish him off with a nasty combination. I just think that Ponzinibbio is way too hittable. I think he's slowing down. I think he's getting older. And I just think Kevin Holland, the only way to really negate the striking of Kevin Holland is to mix in the grappling. And I don't think Ponzinibbio has the desire to mix in the grappling. And even if he does, I think Kevin Holland for the last few years, since Derek Brunson exposed him, since Marvin Vettori exposed him, I think he's been working on that grappling. And I don't think Ponzinibbio has the offensive grappling to take Kevin Holland down and control him on the ground. And I just really think this is a fight where it's the young eating the old. Kevin Holland, much younger, much longer, much more powerful. And I just think he's going to go out there, light Ponzinibbio up with his hands. And I just don't think Ponzinibbio is going to have anything for him. He's not going to be able to close that distance. He's not going to be able to get in and out and land his shots. And I think the power of Kevin Holland is super underrated. He has power from weird positions. And I think Ponzinibbio is going to start getting lit up early, and I think he's going to start kind of initiating the clinch. But I think Kevin Holland will be able to disengage, and then he'll go right back on the offense, landing big shots, using that massive reach advantage, and clipping Ponzinibbio on the chin. And I really think it's going to be a straight right that hurts Ponzinibbio, and then maybe he throws another combination, hits him with another right hand, drops him, and then the ref jumps in. Maybe he lands 1 or 2 ground and pound shots. I don't think this is going to be a pretty fight for Ponzinibbio. I do think Ponzinibbio is going to go out there and try to strike with him. I do think it's going to be an exciting fight while it lasts. And can Kevin Holland get caught? Yes. But I just don't see a scenario where Ponzinibbio goes out there and is able to deal with the onslaught and the range of Kevin Holland early. And I just think the chin is degrading in quality. He's been taking a lot of damage. And I think Kevin Holland will find a way to put him out in the first round. And I also could see a Kevin Holland submission win in the first round as well. I could see him rocking Santiago Ponzinibbio, Ponzinibbio shooting on a sloppy shot, and then maybe getting guillotined or Darce choked. Kevin Holland's got some decent chokes, and he has some wins via submission, so I could also see that happening. But I just think Kevin Holland gets it done. Regardless of how Kevin Holland wins, or regardless of what round it is, I think Kevin Holland gets a finish in this fight. I don't see this fight going to decision, and I just don't see Ponzinibbio getting the job done. So I'm very confident in Kevin Holland in this fight. But let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Don't forget to like the video if you enjoyed it, and thank you so much for watching.